After I die, could you trouble yourself to handle my affairs after I'm gone? There was silence for a few minutes. Okay, I guess. I'll feed your body to the dogs. I was dying. I was a lone soul in life, and I'd be a wandering spirit after death. I have some civic responsibility. I was afraid my body would stay inside for too long without being found. Rotting, decomposing, oozing, covered in maggots. Messing up my own place was one thing, but if it affected the neighborhood's reputation and property values, or ruined my neighbors' moods and appetites, that would be truly awful. So I called my ex-boyfriend, who I broke up with 7 years ago. I put down the phone, feeling helpless and disappointed. Online you can find delivery services, errand services, ride-sharing/taxi services, but I couldn't find anyone who helps handle your affairs after you're gone. I'm dying, the kind where there's no cure. After experiencing shock, fear, anger, and breakdown, I had calmly accepted this reality. Anyway, I have no family, no one to rely on. Dying just means being lonely somewhere else. But I was worried that after I died at home, my body would remain there for a long time because no one would visit. Decomposing, festering, oozing, covered in maggots, giving off an utterly insane stench. Maybe my body wouldn't be discovered until the neighbors in the entire building suffered an inhuman attack by this biological weapon? That would be too late. I'm quite vain, and I don't want my body to be such a gruesome sight when people finally find it. I also have some civic responsibility. I don't want to turn my home into a cursed house, affecting my neighbors' moods and appetites. And even less do I want to drag down the neighborhood's property values. The real estate market is bad lately, and struggling homeowners are already wishing they were dead. I don't want to add insult to injury. Of course, I could choose to be hospitalized and die with dignity in the hospital. But I don't like the smell of disinfectant in hospitals. So I had to find someone to handle my affairs after I'm gone. So that after I die, I can quickly turn to ash, clean, environmentally friendly, and hygienic. After thinking it over, my ex-boyfriend was the only one I could ask. I unblocked him from my block list and tried calling, praying he hadn't changed his number. It connected. I could hear his low breathing on the other end, but he didn't say anything. Robert. Robert? I'm Chloe. I wasn't sure if he had deleted me from his contact list, so I had to introduce myself. Beep, beep. The call was disconnected. That must have been Robert himself. If it had been someone else, they would have at least said wrong number. Shamelessly, I called again. This time, it rang busy for over 10 seconds before he picked up. Afraid he'd hang up again, I rushed to state my purpose at lightning speed, like rattling off a list. Don't hang up. I know you hate me, but I'm dying. Can you handle my affairs after I'm gone? It would be pretty satisfying to watch me die right in front of you, wouldn't it? After saying it all in one breath, he didn't hang up this time. After 7 years apart, a familiar yet strange voice spoke. You're finally dying? But you've been dead to me for a long time. He was being sarcastic and mocking. But I was a woman who wasn't even afraid of dying anymore, so why would I care about being mocked? Your wish for me to die is just a nice thought, not to be taken seriously. But this time, I really won't last more than 3 months. You should cherish this chance to see me off with your own eyes. If you miss this, you won't be able to buy a similar experience later, no matter how much money you spend. I pleaded earnestly, like a professional salesperson. Ha ha ha. Robert suddenly burst into laughter. Chloe, you'll really stop at nothing to get close to me, will you? His voice was full of malicious joy. Even though you haven't contacted me in years, I've been keeping up with you. I know things haven't been going well for you. Your family went bankrupt, your father killed himself, your mother ran off with her younger lover, and you got divorced, abandoned by Julian. Now you're all alone, no one cares about you. You must be pretty pathetic, huh? I really suspect you're a jinx. Because everyone who gets close to you becomes unlucky. But the people who leave you are all happy. Like me now, successful in my career, made a name for myself. Even just on the phone, I could imagine the expression of gnashing teeth he must have had on his face. So now you're at the end of your rope, coming to me for help? Trying to fake your death and play the victim to get my sympathy? Do you think I still have feelings for a two-faced manipulative woman like you? No. Playing the victim won't work on me. Because if you really did die in front of me, I'd just feed your body to the dogs. I thought about it seriously. Having my body fed to the dogs would be a bit grim. But it would still be better than being foul and rotten, crawling with maggots, right? Besides, I actually like dogs. Could you feed it to a border collie? I don't like huskies. I offered seriously. You. Robert was speechless. He must have thought I was deliberately messing with him, and he hung up again. I didn't call a third time. I didn't want to humiliate myself further. I searched for funeral homes in the city on my phone, wondering if I could make arrangements in advance. But Robert was already at my doorstep. He actually knew my current address. A saying about how fortunes can reverse, Robert told me that in college. He liked reading online novels and said that line was from a line from one of those fantasy novels he used to read. He also complimented my looks, saying I was a perfect 10. Reality was more fantastical than fiction. It didn't take 30 years, just 7 years, for Robert's and my lives to completely flip. 7 years ago, he was just a poor college student who finished his studies on a student loan. I was a socialite with a wealthy background. He loved me desperately, humble and devoted. But I kicked him, toyed with him, and dumped him. Robert, we're not right for each other. We're not from the same world. I was just playing with you, and now I'm done playing. You didn't actually think I would marry you, did you? Ha ha ha. I couldn't possibly stoop that low. Get lost. Poor people aren't worthy of love. I watched Robert cry his heart out in front of me. The fire in his eyes slowly died. I was sure that I had personally extinguished his innocence and love. 7 years later, he was already a successful young entrepreneur. At the age of an heir, he had become a self-made man through his own efforts and made the Forbes list. He was mature, confident, and imposing, while I was completely down and out. The socialite halo around me was shattered, and now I was living in a cramped apartment under 500 square feet in an older neighborhood. Unemployed, no family, no friends. More importantly, I was dying. I had asked him to handle my affairs after I'm gone. My story with him was truly like a cruel joke from hell. You don't look well, and you seem run down. Robert stood leaning against the wall, one hand in his pocket. He was already handsome, and now that he had money, his presence was even stronger. His Armani suits and Vacheron Constantin watch on his wrist showcased the charm of a successful man. Unlike when we first dated, when he wore a faded outfit from freshman year until sophomore year. I insisted on buying him clothes, but he always said they were too expensive. Is it because your family went bankrupt and you can't handle the hard times that you got so thin? He was gloating again. He laughed while looking around my cramped home. The place is a bit small, but it's clean. Honestly, I'd rather see someone like you living on the streets. I also looked at the small apartment with some reluctance to loo. It. It's just a one-bedroom apartment. This was the third home I had lived in during my 25 years. The smallest, the oldest, the most humble. It couldn't compare to the mansion I was born in, or Julian's family estate. But it was the place that made me feel the safest and warmest. It was the apartment I bought with all my savings, earned myself. Being able to die here, I was quite content. That's why I particularly didn't want to leave it messy and unlucky after I died. Thank you for coming. I opened the drawer and took out the property deed and a handwritten agreement. I don't have much saved up. This apartment is my only asset. After I die, please help me sell this apartment. The money from the sale should be enough to buy a cemetery plot and cover my funeral expenses. There should be over 100,000 left over. Please donate it. I don't have any family or friends to give it to anyway, and you wouldn't care about this small amount. I was seriously giving him my last instructions, but Robert exploded in anger. He suddenly came closer, gripped my shoulders with both hands, and shoved me hard against the wall. He leaned in close, face to face. His eyes blazed, his breath was hot. He ground his teeth and growled, I don't know if I should praise your acting, or denounce your shamelessness. Let alone a wicked woman like you who won't die so easily. Even if you did die, you would donate money? Haven't you always enjoyed toying with the dignity of the poor? His facial muscles twitched, showing endless vengeful pleasure. So you really became poor later. That's karma. I was actually afraid you might die. Wouldn't dying be a release? You should stay alive and suffer punishment and torment for the rest of your life. His grip was hurting me badly. I tried to explain I wasn't acting, that I was really dying, and I even showed him my medical report. But he thought it was just a prop I got online. Finally, I got impatient. My life is my own, why should I have to prove to you that I'm dying? I suddenly remembered Uncle George, a kind and honest old man who often collected scrap in the neighborhood. Maybe I should entrust him? If I died, I'd leave all the furniture and things in my apartment to him, ask him to go through the trouble, and just let him recycle me too. You're hurting me. I struggled to break free. If you don't want to, fine. Forget I said anything. You can go. But Robert wouldn't leave. He was like a hunter toying with his prey, his eyes flashing with a cruel light. Since you love playing games so much, I'll play along. I'm taking care of your remains, it's settled. Didn't you say you were going to die in 3 months? He stared at me aggressively. What if you're not dead by then? I'm really looking forward to seeing you act like a shameless clown then. If you had any sense of decency, you should be utterly disgraced. After saying that, Robert just laughed, as if he had me cornered. I smiled too. You're only one person. Fate is on my side. Want to challenge me? You're bound to lose. In my plan, Robert would just wait until I was dead and then come over to handle my affairs after I'm gone. We agreed to contact each other every 3 days, to make sure I was still alive. If I didn't contact him for more than 3 days, it meant something had happened. He already had the key to my place, so he would definitely come over to deal with the aftermath. It was hot now, so there was no time to waste. But Robert thought this was too boring. The next day, he showed up at my place again. Get dressed and come with me. Where are we going? To buy you a cemetery plot. He smiled strangely, saying I'd feed you to the dogs was just talk. Dogs are humans' best friends, they can't eat junk food. So, I should at least respect your opinion on where you'll be buried. I could guess what Robert was thinking. He was convinced I was acting, that saying I was dying was just emotional manipulation. To play the victim, trying to evoke his sympathy. So he used buying a cemetery plot to spite me. Of course, I wasn't bothered by it. I felt that a person's death was like a lamp going out, it didn't really matter where you were buried. But I didn't want to spoil Robert's fun, so I got into his Porsche and drove around several large cemeteries outside the city. At each place, Robert would deliberately tell the cemetery sales representative loudly, "This is for burying her." I was very polite, and I would smile at the sales rep and say, "Sorry for the trouble." This made the sales rep quite uncomfortable. They had been eloquently describing how good the cemetery was, how prosperous the vibes were, but my premature appearance as a future occupant made them falter. It's okay, please continue. I think the conditions are quite good here. I even had to comfort him. The cemetery plot was chosen. On the way down the mountain, Robert saw that I looked normal and couldn't help but ask, "Are you really not bothered? You made very thoughtful arrangements." I looked at the surroundings of the cemetery, lush and green, with abundant vegetation. I definitely won't have insomnia lying here later. Robert had originally intended to spite me, but ended up getting provoked and losing his composure. He stamped his foot hard. Fine. So you don't care, huh? We'll keep choosing. You have a cemetery plot, but you don't have burial clothes yet, do you? No urn yet, right? No funeral portrait taken yet, right? I'll arrange it all for you. Also, we need to book the funeral band/performers in advance. Robert was true to his word and really took me to get all these things done. We bought 7 sets of burial clothes alone. There were long and short ones, for all 4 seasons. The urn was jade carved, with dragons and phoenixes carved on it. When we went to take the funeral portrait, there was a small mix-up. At first, the photographer thought we were there for a couple's photo shoot. When they heard it was for a funeral portrait, they were clearly unhappy. Sorry, I don't do this kind of work. You'll have to leave. He was trying to get rid of us. Robert held up 3 fingers directly. I'll give you 30,000. Will you take the job? Okay. Just tell me what kind of effect you want. Whether it's facing death bravely or lingering in the world, anything is fine. I want it to look like I deserve to die. The funeral band/performers were a group of professional mourners. They were fully booked, and their fee was expensive, 200,000. Originally, I hadn't objected to any of Robert's arrangements, but now I finally couldn't help myself. He was spending too much. He had absolutely none of his previous thrifty spirit. Before, the cemetery plot, urn, and funeral portrait had already cost over 400,000. Adding in these professional mourners, 600,000 might not even be enough. My apartment selling for 500,000 would be considered a high price. I didn't want to die owing a mountain of debt. Let's skip the band. I don't have the budget for it. Don't you play the harmonica? Just playing Wishing You a Smooth Journey for me would be enough. It's fine, I'll cover the difference. I'll sponsor it. Robert smiled faintly. Chloe, as long as you're willing to die, I'm willing to bury you. With everything arranged, I felt relieved and just wanted to stay home and wait to die. But Robert wouldn't let me go. He actually wanted to take me to a party. If I didn't go, he'd tear up the agreement. So I had no choice but to attend, becoming the clown everyone was staring at. Is that the former socialite, Chloe? TSK. She looks much more run down than before. How could she not be run down? Henry married his daughter off to Julian back then, intending to swallow up the Green family, but ended up being counterattacked by the Green family. The Thompson family went bankrupt, Henry killed himself, Susan ran off with her money and her younger lover, and Miss Thompson was kicked out by the Green family. Truly, cleverness overreached itself, losing the daughter and ruining the whole scheme. Serves her right. That's the karma for having a wicked heart. But how is Chloe with Robert? Haven't you heard? Chloe and Robert used to be a couple, but Chloe dumped Robert because she was a gold digger. Now Robert has more money than Julian. That woman must regret it terribly, right? Definitely. Otherwise, why would she be shamelessly clinging to Robert? These people weren't just talking, women who were after Robert kept coming over to provoke me, throwing all sorts of shade. I had ALS. In the past few days, I'd clearly felt not only my limbs stiffening but also my tongue becoming less agile. I could only stay silent, letting those women chatter away. Robert stood nearby, holding a glass of red wine, watching with relish. Encouraged by this, those women became even more malicious towards me. I wanted to leave, but I couldn't move my legs. Until a large hand grabbed me. Come with me. It was my ex-husband, Julian. His grip was strong. I stumbled along, almost falling. Let go of her. Robert blocked our way. Get out of the way. You're the one who should get lost. She's my ex-wife. She came with me. The two men were on edge, and their argument quickly escalated into a fight. The scene was chaotic. So many people didn't notice that I had collapsed on the floor. They didn't even react when people stepped over me. Finally, someone noticed something was wrong with me. Stop fighting. Chloe looks like she's really dead. The noise around me grew louder. Many people were screaming. It was so noisy. Especially Robert's voice, it was awful, like a duck with its neck stepped on. Chloe, get up. Open your eyes. Stop faking it. I said stop faking it. He was shaking my body violently. I was actually conscious, but I was so tired, so exhausted. I didn't have the strength to open my eyes at all. Let go of her. Can't you see? How weak she is. Julian's voice was also different from usual, trembling, like his vocal cords were vibrating wildly. Call 911. Ambulance. Go. This time, Robert didn't butt heads with Julian again. Soon, I felt myself being lifted onto a stretcher. The ambulance sped like the wind, and I smelled the familiar, intensely disliked smell of disinfectant again. We arrived at the hospital. I felt so wronged. I didn't like it here. I just wanted to die in my own home. Was that too much to ask? Unfortunately, I didn't have the strength to speak. I just heard the doctors vaguely saying, ALS, no cure, prepare yourselves, we did our best. All the same old stuff. I was impatient to listen, so I slept and had a very, very long dream. I was born into a wealthy family that lacked love. As far back as I could remember, I saw my parents fighting every day. My father, Henry, was a selfish, greedy, womanizing, and heartless man. He liked to cheat and swindle when doing business. His private life was decadent. He womanized shamelessly, even bringing his mistresses home to fool around. My mother was no better. If she wasn't playing mahjong, she was getting beauty treatments. She only used male beauticians, demanding handsome ones with good physiques. Other people got beauty treatments to become more beautiful. She managed to give herself an ectopic pregnancy from hers. Naturally, there was another storm of trouble at home. I always hoped they would divorce, but they were like two people who couldn't stand each other but were bound together. They just wouldn't separate. It was only when I got a little older that I understood they weren't staying together because of lingering feelings, but simply because they couldn't agree on the division of assets. Born into such a family, although I had everything I needed, I wasn't happy at all. I was very pessimistic, feeling that true goodness and beauty simply didn't exist in the world. The essence of the world was just a pile of filth. Family ties were all about calculation, love was all lies. It wasn't until college that I met Robert. He was working part-time in the cafeteria back then. Some students were very wasteful, ordering a lot of food and hardly touching it before throwing it into the trash. Robert had a plastic bag, and he would put whole bread rolls and buns into it to eat himself. But he was caught by a girl. The girl yelled and shouted, mocking Robert as a beggar, causing hundreds of people to gather and watch. Robert stood in the middle of the crowd, his face red and his neck stiff, his head down, not daring to say a word in his defense. I couldn't stand to watch. I thought that girl was being such a pain. It was food you didn't want anyway. Robert didn't steal it. Why humiliate someone's dignity like that? Does having money make you so great? Well, I have more money than you. Doesn't that make me even greater? I stepped forward to stand up for Robert. Later I learned that the reason the girl was so difficult was because she had actively pursued Robert before. Although Robert's family was poor, he was a good student, handsome, and still very popular with girls. But Robert had rejected her. The girl was furious and embarrassed, thinking this poor guy was ungrateful. That's why she deliberately humiliated him in public. That's how Robert's and my story began. The socialite and the poor guy, it was just like a cliché idol drama. But while we were in it, it didn't feel cliché at all. We relished every moment. He cured my pessimism and made me believe in love. I worked hard to melt away his insecurity, believing his difficulties were temporary, and that he would definitely succeed in the future. We agreed to get married right after graduation. He worked even harder, got a full scholarship, and the chance to study abroad. I was going to go abroad with him while he studied. I even specifically asked if getting married abroad would have the same legal effect domestically. But just my father insisted I marry Julian. Our family and the Green family were old acquaintances. I had always thought of Julian as a brother. My father was very devious. He openly said he hoped the two families would unite in marriage, becoming even closer. But he was actually after the Green family's business. Just then, Julian's father retired, and the company was handed over to the young Julian. My father thought Julian was young and inexperienced, and that this was a perfect opportunity to trick him. I was just part of the honey trap, serving to paralyze Julian. My father secretly concocted a big trap, waiting for Julian to fall into it. As long as Julian took the bait, the Green family would be doomed forever, and our family would leap to become the richest in the city. The plan was perfect. He didn't even tell me. He only said that marriage required matching social status, and he looked down on Robert's background. Of course, I wasn't happy about it. I cried, I threw tantrums, I even wanted to run away from home and elope with Robert. But my despicable father threatened me with Robert's future. He said if I didn't follow his arrangements, he would ruin Robert, making Robert lose his scholarship, his chance to study abroad, his graduate studies, and even all future opportunities for work and starting his own business. Making Robert live in the mud forever, never able to rise again. I yielded. I knew very well how poor Robert's family was. How difficult it was for him to go to college, to have the chance to study abroad. His tuition wasn't just dug out of the dirt by his whole family, it was also pulled together by the whole village, 50 from you, 100 from me. It was absolutely no exaggeration to say he was the hope of the entire village. He had always wanted to repay his parents and the villagers. He had originally made up his mind not to date in college and focus on his studies until he met me, which disturbed his resolve. He couldn't be ruined by me. Many thin GS in this world are more important than love. I couldn't tell Robert the truth. I could only choose to be the villain, protecting him by hurting him. Get out of here. I was just playing with you. I'm not crazy. Why would I marry a pauper? Robert was crying. My heart was crying too. But I had to put on a cruel and ruthless expression. I haven't forgotten how pathetic you looked stealing those buns in the cafeteria. It was so cheap, so humble, like a stray dog. I chose to toy with you just because I heard you were hard to get, that you said you wouldn't date in college. So I just wanted to test my charm. Turns out you're very easy to catch. Game over, you're out. The man I truly love is Julian. You can ask around about his wealth. You're not even fit to tie his shoes. I'm blocking you. If you have any self-respect, don't bother me again. Robert went abroad carrying a deep hatred for me. I also married Julian. On our wedding night, he said he had always liked me. I told him I didn't like him. I just couldn't defy my family. Julian smiled and said he didn't mind, he could wait patiently for me to change my mind. After saying that, he took a pillow and went to the guest room. At that time, I felt deeply guilty towards Julian. Although I didn't know about my father's plot to swallow up the Green family, I felt my coldness had wronged Julian. He should have married a woman who truly loved him. My father's scheme began. He fabricated a fake multi-billion-dollar project to lure Julian into investing. As long as Julian took the bait, the Green family would be doomed. But my father overestimated his own intelligence. He thought only he was smart and everyone else was stupid. He also overestimated my charm, thinking Julian was completely infatuated with me and would never be on guard. In fact, Julian had been playing the fool to catch a tiger. He turned the tables. The truly skilled hunters appear as prey. My father was fixated on swallowing up the Green fam. And Julian was also plotting to bring down the Thompson family. So the final outcome was that the Thompson family went bankrupt. My father couldn't handle the blow and jumped from the top floor of a 33-story building. When the tree fell, the monkeys scattered. The Thompson family fell apart overnight. Meanwhile, Susan fled abroad in a panic overnight with her private stash of money and a younger lover she met at a beauty salon. She didn't even think about taking me with her. And so I became the most awkward person in the world. No one sympathized with me, they only gloated. Everyone said I was a stupid bait, that I tried to trap the Green family and ended up suffering the consequences myself. But it was only then that I learned the truth of what had happened. That neither my biological father nor my legal husband, these two men, who should have been closest to me, were actually using me. They treated me like a pawn. When the game was over, the pawn was discarded. Although Julian was still very gentle and gentlemanly in front of me. Although he not only didn't suggest divorce but also prevented others in the Green family from attacking or insulting me. But how could I possibly have the face to continue staying with the Green family? Besides, I was forced into marrying into the Green family in the first place. So I proposed divorce. Julian was still very much a gentleman. Chloe, I truly like you. He smiled gently. You don't have to leave, you know? I just bowed deeply to Julian. I'm sorry for causing you trouble. I didn't ask for anything and left empty-handed. I didn't hate him at all, I even felt I owed him. Even though he had brought down the Thompson family and my parents were dead or fled. But that was just the rule of the business world. A war without smoke. If you can't handle the game, don't play. Besides, it was my father who had the malicious intent first. The one who starts it is despicable. He fully deserved this outcome, it was just karma. I won't blame anyone. I used my limited savings to buy this small apartment. I also found a job, wanting to live a normal life. By then, Robert had returned from studying abroad and was starting his own business with great fanfare. He was very successful, gained the favor of venture capitalists, and successfully went public within just a few years. His personal assets exceeded $1 billion. But none of that had anything to do with me anymore. I never thought about finding Robert again. What was missed was missed. A good horse like him had no reason to go back for grass like me. But I never expected I would get ALS. I was dying. Fate had tangled me and him together again. Chloe? Chloe! He was calling out my name by my ear. I rarely opened my eyes and saw Robert, his eyes bloodshot. He was clutching my medical report, crumpled and veins bulging on his hand. He finally believed I was dying. It wasn't acting, and it wasn't a prop. I was relieved. I wouldn't have to attend boring social events anymore. I could quietly go back to my little place and wait to die. I want to leave the hospital. I don't want to die here. You promised to handle my affairs after I'm gone. Keep your word. This onset was faster and more severe than I had imagined. I knew I wouldn't last 3 months. Why didn't you tell me sooner you had ALS? Why didn't you come to the hospital for treatment? How could you be so irresponsible with yourself? His voice and his body trembled together. When people get ALS, their limbs stiffen, and their facial expressions also become less and less. But he still managed to make me smile. I did tell you, didn't I? You just didn't believe me. Stay in the hospital. I'll definitely cure you. Definitely. He sounded like he was swearing an oath. You haven't finished atoning. You haven't paid enough for your heartlessness. You can't die. You can't. I'll find a specialist. The best specialist. Go to the capital city. No. Go abroad. He kept muttering endlessly, grief-stricken and agitated. Suddenly, he turned and ran out. Although he moved quickly, I still saw that he was crying. His tears flew in the wind. This strengthened my resolve. I would never tell him the truth about our breakup back then. I would rather he hate me than feel guilty. When I died, everything would be over. I didn't want the living to be forever trapped in pain and regret. The reason I wanted Robert to handle my affairs after I'm gone before I died was, of course, because I still secretly loved him. I wanted to see him one last time before I died. And I wasn't stupid either. Judging by Robert's emotional upheaval after he knew I was really dying, I was sure he still loved me too. Actually, I should have realized it sooner. Without love that cuts to the bone, where would such raging hatred come from? If he truly didn't care, he would have let go long ago. Why would he waste his time on me? It's just that I never regretted anything I did. Like a moth flying into a flame. Everyone says moths are foolish. Only the moth itself knows that it had no other choice, and so it went forward without looking back. An hour later, Robert came back, looking like a wilted eggplant. With the current level of medical technology, there was no cure for ALS. He even tried hard to force a fake smile at me. We can transfer hospitals. Don't lose hope. There are ways. I have money. You know I have a lot of money. He was like a clumsy liar, telling lies full of holes. This disease, I know more about it than you do. I gently interrupted him. Don't waste time. Can you take me home? Actually, I'm quite grateful. The cemetery plot and burial clothes you picked are good. Just skip the funeral band/performers, they're too noisy. Hearing the mention of the cemetery plot, he jumped up as if he'd been poked with a needle. Don't talk about any cemetery plot. I'll return it right away. Bad luck. Why are you buying a cemetery plot when why? Oh, you're doing fine? He shouted, his face flushed, fumbling for his phone, trying to find the cemetery sales representative's number. But his hands were shaking too much, and the phone fell to the floor, sliding under the hospital bed. He awkwardly crawled onto the floor, sticking his butt up as he tried to get under the bed, attempting to reach the phone. But he was tall, the space under the bed was too low, and he accidentally hit his head. Ah! He cried out in pain. His emotions completely broke down with that cry. Damn it! Damn it! He sat on the floor, hitting the marble floor with his fists, disregarding his image. His fists were cut, and blood burst out. This damn ALS. He started to cry, with tears and snot. Chloe, why are you dying? You can't die. He crawled to the side of the bed and grabbed my hand with hands covered in tears, snot, and blood. You haven't apologized yet. You haven't regretted it yet. You haven't cried your heart out begging me to forgive you. You haven't even asked me to get back together. He cried harder and harder. No. I don't want you to apologize anymore. You don't have to confess. I'm begging you, okay? Please don't die, okay? Let's get back together. Didn't you used to think I was poor? I have a lot of money now. I'll give you all my money, okay? I know your family went bankrupt, and actually, I was really happy about it. Because that way, I could support you. I never forgot you. I hated you because I loved you. And you love me too, right? Otherwise, why would you ask me to handle my affairs after you're gone? You could have found Julian. He's your ex-husband. That proves that in your heart, I'm more important than Julian, right? He kept droning on, hoping for a definite answer from me. My body was like a ship in a storm, being shaken to the verge of falling apart. The door opened. Julian rushed in. You maniac! She can't handle you shaking her like this. Julian pulled Robert away. He didn't smoke, but I smelled a strong scent of cigarette smoke on him. His voice was hoarse. Chloe, come home with me. I've kept your room for you just as it was, nothing has changed. Who do you think you are? She's not your wife anymore. Get out! Robert scrambled up, gesticulating wildly, trying to drive Julian away. An ex-wife is still a wife. I'm more qualified to take care of her than you are. It was the first time I had seen Julian so distraught. No, you're not qualified. She trusts me the most. She entrusted her final arrangements to me. Not you. Robert roared hysterically, daring him fully. You don't deserve it. She's so miserable now. It's all because of you. The emotional Julian clearly wanted to say something. Julian! I used all my strength to stop him from speaking. Julian rushed to my bedside when he heard me. I'm here. Tell me. It was then I noticed his eyes were red-rimmed. He must have been crying too. I believed what he had said before now. He did like me. He hadn't just treated me as a tool. I'm here too. Talk to me. Robert also came closer, unwilling to give up. Men and their damn need to win. Could you step out? I have something I want to talk to Julian about alone. Robert was very reluctant. His eyes were full of hurt, as if he had been abandoned by me again. But he still left the hospital room. Drip, drip. The blood from his hand dripped onto the floor, blooming red like scattered petals. Don't tell him. This was my last request to Julian. In this world, only 3 people knew the inside story of my breakup with Robert. My dead father, my mother who ran off, and this ex-husband who didn't live up to the name. You really only care about Robert. I really envy him. Julian's gaze was also like that of a wounded fawn, giving me a sense of guilt for repeatedly causing harm. If I had let your father manipulate me, and I became bankrupt and destitute, would you have fallen in love with me out of guilt? Julian asked a very juvenile question. Lou. Kylie, you didn't. I tried to force a smile. I'm just a simple woman. I can't owe too many emotional debts. I only have one life, and it's not enough to pay it back. At my insistence, I returned to my little place. Robert stayed with me 24 hours a day, never leaving my side. I could no longer get out of bed. Muscles atrophied, breathing became difficult. I couldn't eat on my own and had to rely on a feeding tube. Robert was like overly sentimental, always crying secretly, but afraid I would hear. I, however, was very calm, calmly waiting for that moment to arrive. But I never expected that the first person to arrive would be my biological mother who had fled abroad. After she went abroad with her younger lover, she originally had a few million to live comfortably. But she didn't expect that her younger lover would later find an opportunity to abscond with the money. My mother had no choice. After wandering for several years, she could only return, looking sheepish. She heard the news that I was sick and that Robert had been taking care of me, and immediately showed up. First, she was after my inheritance, meaning this apartment, saying it had to go to her after I died. Second, she demanded money from Robert. She could see that Robert cared about me a lot, so she threatened that if he didn't give her money, she wouldn't let him take care of me. To increase her bargaining power, she blabbed, "Robert, do you know how much this foolish girl loves you? If she hadn't done it to protect you back then, she wouldn't have married Julian. So it's not too much to ask you for money, right? I'm her biological mother. Just think of it as you taking care of her mother for her." My mother revealed the truth from back then. I wanted to stop her, but I couldn't make a sound. I thought after learning this, Robert would break down or even go crazy. But unexpectedly, he was unusually calm. He gave my mother 5 million. My mother was overjoyed and beaming. But then she came up with a new trick. "Do you want this girl's ashes after she dies? If you do, it'll cost another 5 million. If you don't want to pay, I'll sell them to Julian." That guy, although he was ruthless towards our Thompson family, he's still very infatuated with this foolish girl. He'll definitely buy them. My mother even sounded a little proud. She's truly my daughter, she's just got that appeal to men. "I'll buy." With another 5 million in hand, my mother left the neighborhood, humming a tune. She was so excited she forgot to watch where she was going, and was hit by a drunk driver and sent flying. She never expected she would go before me. I knew I would be saying goodbye in the next few days. Like a final surge of energy, I suddenly felt much better, and it seemed like my ability to speak had recovered a bit. I clearly felt that Robert's state was off. Before, he had been sad and distressed. But ever since he learned the inside story of the breakup, he hadn't cried once. He even smiled often, smiling and telling me stories about our college days. I also heard him arranging his company affairs. He found professional managers to run the company. He entrusted all his assets to a foundation, and requested that 70% of his assets be used to help his hometown alleviate poverty and become prosperous. Robert's parents had also passed away during these 7 years, so like me, he had no family left. I had a bad feeling. It seemed like he was making his final arrangements. Later, when I heard him calling the cemetery sales representative, asking if the plot could fit 2 people, I was completely certain. That foolish boy wouldn't be planning to die with me, would he? "Don't do anything foolish. I still need you to visit my grave every year," I repeatedly urged him. He just smiled and wouldn't answer directly. It rained that day. I lay in his arms and closed my eyes forever. After dying, I became a soul. Worried that Robert would do something foolish, I didn't dissipate. I just flow. Head in the air, watching Robert meticulously handle my final arrangements. To my relief, he really didn't have that funeral band/performers come to play and sing. I didn't have many family or friends. On the day of the burial, besides Robert, there was only Julian. "Julian, remember to visit her grave every year, okay? I won't be able to come anymore." Robert entrusted Julian very seriously. Julian stared coldly at Robert, wanting to say something, but didn't say anything. He just nodded. That night, Robert and I met in the clouds.